Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Steve Creasy, and joining me today are our panel of experts, our two co-hosts, Christy Puttick from Pack Your Pixie Dust. How you doing today, Christy?
I am well. How are you?
And Chris Bright down there in beautiful Los Angeles. How you doing today, Chris?
Doing so good.
So good. And we are going to talk about, I think, something that everybody loves.
Food!
Food's the best.
Dining. Yes. Yes. Disney's. How does Chris say it? Disney's wedding dining.
Oh, I know.
Comparable to a nice wedding. That is a really good way to describe it.
It is. It's like not an unpleasant wedding, but it's like, it's also not like
Fine dining.
Like a fine dining on mainland, unless you go to their fine dining restaurants.
Well, I don't want to turn people off right away or anything like that, but
I know. We love it. It's food.
It is. We are going to jump into a DCL 101 series, and this time we're going to cover everything there is to do and to know about dining. We're going to do our best to kind of give you an overview of what to expect on your DCL cruise if you haven't cruised with them before, and at the end we'll give you guys some of kind of our thoughts, some tips and tricks along the way. And just to jump into it, let's look at an overview of what is provided on board. Christy, you want to start with that?
Yeah, so there are 3 main dining rooms where people would have dinner each night. And then there are 1 to 2 specialty restaurants, depending on whether you were on one of the newer, larger ships. There's 2 or 1 specialty restaurant for adults 18 and older if you are on the classic ships, the Magic and the Wonder. There's also Cabanas, which is a buffet for breakfast and lunch, and then they have dinner, which we'll go into more of that in a moment. There is dining at the main pool deck, so they'll have like burgers and Amber's French fries and some things like that. Steve will always get shawarma on the Disney Magic, but I guess we'll talk about quick service in a minute. So just giving the overview again. Then there's no cost to get room service, which is super fun, especially for kids too, and for adults, frankly, because when you go on vacation, you usually have to pay $8 million for it, and you don't. So that's nice to have room service. And then there are some appetizers in the bars. Most of those have a fee. There are a couple of like salty snacks that you can get without paying. That's basically where you can eat on a Disney cruise ship.
There is no shortage of food.
Yeah. Basically, at any time during the day, if you're hungry, you're going to be able to find something, right, guys?
Always.
I will say Disney Cruise Line, in my opinion, has shorter buffet hours than every other cruise line out there. I think that most cruise lines have buffets that are open almost the entirety of the day, and Disney does not. And so I think if people are comparing a Disney cruise to somebody else, or they're used to other cruise lines and then they're coming over to Disney, it's just something to note. They have much shorter, like lunch is a very specific time, and breakfast in the buffet is a very specific time, and it's not the entirety of the morning into lunch. So just keep that in mind.
Well, let's turn to what you can do ahead of time for the cruise as far as some of the bookings that you can do. And Christy, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been my experience from when you first book your cruise, when you book that cruise, it's going to put you into a dining time. So there's two main seatings for your rotational dining. We'll get into what rotational dining is here in just a second. But the first one is the main seating, which is at 5:30. And these are kind of in general, because I've noticed over in Europe they can be at different times. But roughly, I think the main dining is going to be at 5:30, and then there'll be a second seating later about 8 o'clock or so. And it's been my experience that a lot of times they put you in the second seating. Have you guys seen that?
That is
like
what
automatically?
It defaults you online into second seating.
Which makes sense because people are desperate for that first seating, and that's the one that sells out the fastest.
And they want people to not know it exists. And just a note, double check your navigator, but main seating is typically at 5:45.
Okay, I knew it was sometime around then. But so yeah, once you get on board, double check your navigator. And like I said, I think in Europe, there was one that it was at 6, so it was a little bit later.
We find that to be the case too over in Europe, that they just start a little later.
Okay, so work with your travel agent, or if you're doing it yourself, just be aware, especially if it's your first cruise, that they're generally going to put you in that second seating, and you need to make the choice to move yourself to the main seating if you want to go in that earlier time.
Yes, and main seating does typically sell out the early, like that's the dining time that will become unavailable or full. So you may have to put yourself on a wait list. And I can give you tips about what you can do if you need to move. There's actually a blog post, so you could do a search on Pack Your Pixie Dust, where I talk about moving your dining time from main or from late to main, and you can read about the different options and what happens if you don't get the dining time you want.
Also, I will say that Christy and I don't know actually what Steve thinks about this, but Christy and I represent the opposite sides of the sphere, where I am fully a fan of the 8:15 dinner. That's the second seating. And Christy does the earlier seating. But I think that's mostly because of your son, right? Like, you have a kid.
I would love to blame it on that, but no.
No, you're like, no, I just like to eat early.
I like to eat like a senior citizen.
All right. Well, I support that. It's respectable. But
remember, I go to bed at like 9:30. So that's a lot of times. So I can't be starting my dinner at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
You're also the one who's like, the fireworks are in the middle of the night.
Okay, before we get too deep in the weeds on this part, I do have a pros and cons between the 5:30 and 8 o'clock a little bit later in the show.
Oh, good. Then let's save it.
We just discussed it. We're fine. I'm kidding.
No, I think there's a couple more things to discuss. So we'll jump into that as well. Okay, so Chris, you guys are coming. You and Seth are leaving on a Star Wars Day at Sea cruise, and there's something else that you can book ahead of time besides your dining time. And that is Paolo and Remy. You want to talk about that and just give an overview of Paolo and Remy, what they are, and then the costs associated with it.
Yes. So because I tend to be just a tiny bit hard on the food options, I always book specialty dining on my cruises. I enjoy it. It feels extra special. And so Paolo and Remy, you can book ahead of time when your booking window opens. I will say that if you are... Depends on the how crowded your sailing is. But if you're less than silver, you will have trouble getting a brunch on the sea days because those go very quickly. The reality being that, like, if you want to pre-book these things, you totally can. On sea days, you can pre-book. It's the most popular time to go, though, is those sea days. And I am not a fan of the Pirates menu, so you will always find me on Pirate Night at Paolo.
Same.
Partially because I have I'm deathly allergic to plantains and bananas, which we're going to talk about allergies at some point, but there's plantains on the pirate menu, so I'm like, let's just avoid. And so I go to Paolo every Pirates Night. That's something that I can pre-book and make sure that I just have it planned before. I will say a lesser known food option, if you're a fan of desserts, is that on the Dream or the Fantasy, you can book a dessert that's themed to the pastry chef from Remy, and they bring out 5 desserts that you don't get to choose them. It's just whatever they bring you. And those 5 desserts are the best 5 desserts I've ever had. I have pictures of them. You'll think that they brought me fine art on a plate. I'll send the pictures to Steve and he can post them because it's literally one of the coolest, prettiest things. It's not cheap. It's something that you do on a sea day, and it's really, really good. So there are dining options that are specialty even within those specialty restaurants.
And that's the dessert brunch, right?
Yeah, it's basically like on the afternoon of a sea day, you go, and the best part is the pastry chef stands there and describes how they made it and why they made it and why they mixed the things together. And it's like a very intimate experience. And also, if you're a picky eater or Remy just seems a little bit too adventurous for you, it's a way to eat in Remy without having to pay the really, really high Remy fee and also maybe eat things that you're not as comfortable eating. So there's my pro tip.
If you want more information about Remy and Paolo options, episode 104, we covered the title was Paolo Be Our Chef, but we cover all of the different Remy and Paolo options.
So just to kind of go over it once again, Paolo is Italian themed, and that costs. These come with an additional cost. Right now, Paolo brunch is $40 per person, and dinner is $40 per person. They recently made a change. You used to only be able, I believe, to only have one dinner reservation at Paolo, but now they're allowing you to make 2, just as long as the first one is on the first night, which is generally not. I don't think that's a very popular night because it's just such a busy night for a lot of people. So I think it's pretty easy to get into Paolo that first night. And then Remy right now is $75 for brunch per person, and dinner is $125 as of today. So,
and the key distinction there is that Remy is a prefix meal. You don't get to choose what you get. You get to choose 2 paths, but you don't get to choose exactly what's served to you. And at Palo, you do. So again, if you're a picky eater or you're uncomfortable, I would go with Palo.
right. And once again, I didn't really say it. Palo is Italian, which I did say, but Remy is French. And your 2 paths are either American or French, right, Chris?
Yep. Do they have escargot at Remy?
I do not know. I have not eaten there, but if they do, I need to eat there.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I mean, I know they have chicken schnitzel.
No, that is
Chicken schnitzel.
I'd be there for sure.
French chicken schnitzel from the Alsace region, right? Okay. Yeah.
You know, Steve, maybe you don't want to do podcasts with the 3 of us anymore because Chris and I do not behave apparently together.
We are quickly going off the rails. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can pre-book, your rotational dining, Palo, and Remy. If you are a person, we can't talk about this too deep here. We've got another episode that we did, and we will have this in the future again. But if you have food allergies, Christy, what are the options for people with food allergies?
You let Disney Cruise Line know about your allergies ahead of time. So you'll either do it through your travel agent or you would let them know yourself. They will notate it in your account. You let your server know, you let your head waiter know. They will pick out your food or help you pick out your food for the entire week. So if it's plantains and bananas, and they're not going to want to poison Chris, so they're going to make sure that they don't give him plantains and bananas. For myself, I can't have gluten, so they're going to make sure that I can still eat really yummy food like chicken schnitzel without having gluten in it. We covered an entire episode of episode 68 with Sarah from Gluten-Free, Dairy-Free Walt Disney World. And so you can listen to that episode to find out more. And she covers her food allergies. Then we go into extreme detail as to what to do. So that will help people if you have food allergies.
Perfect. And we reached out to our Patreon group ahead of time and asked them for some of their tips and tricks as far as dining goes. And Tim from the group responded, and this is his experience. The main thing is they're very accommodating to dietary restrictions or preferences, but you have to let them know. On the first night, spend the extra time talking to your waiter and tell them what you need or want. They will help you out the rest of the cruise. Even at Cabanas, you can ask for something gluten-free or whatever. If possible, they will help. So great tip there, Tim. Before you get on board, Christy, you mentioned that you had a way to get on the wait list to change your dining time. And then I know that once you get on board, there is the opportunity to change your dining time and also get those Palo and Remy reservations. Can you go over that?
Yeah, so if your wait list didn't clear prior to the start of the cruise, which you'll know because when you go to log in, it'll say that you're either in second dining or main seating right on the website, the DCL website, and in the app. So if your wait list hasn't cleared prior to the cruise, then it will be in the navigator. It's in the welcome aboard section. It'll tell you where to go. Right now, it appears to be Enchanted Garden on the big ships, and that's from 12:30 to 3 o'clock, where you can go. And we talked about this in a previous episode. That line was long one day, but you stand in the long line, so send one person, the rest of the people can get food, and you get yourself on the waiting list. And I can tell you from experience that they go down that waiting list in the order that you've arrived. And so don't go eat first if getting on that waiting list is important to you. And I even did this with an infant one time. My infant did not stay up that late. It was going to be really bad, and he didn't sleep in strollers. We were not going to be able to go to late dining if we were stuck at late dining for that week. I later saw the list, and I could tell based on the list that they literally just went in order and cleared people throughout the day. And so you can read my blog post where I talk about this more. I was cleared the next day, and it's fine. And there are some options. There are things you can do if you don't get cleared, but they will really work with you to get you to the dining time that you need, even if you have to wait until the start of the cruise. If you don't go between 12:30 and 3, you can call between 3 and 5, and these are in the navigator as well. So just make sure you look at that the first day, and that should be a high priority for you. If this is important to you, then make it important and go where you're supposed to go to change that dining time.
And is that the same place if you were unable to get the Palo or Remy reservation you wanted, that you can add that as well?
Yes, it is. And then on the Wonder and the Magic, you just need to look because they're in different places. So like the Magic right now, for example, they're having you do the dining time in Fathoms on deck 3. And so just look at the navigator to see where on the Wonder they're going to have you do it.
Well, let's move into main dining then, the biggest component of your eating experience, or probably the fanciest that most people are going to do. And we hear this term rotational dining. Chris, what is rotational dining?
Well, rotational dining is basically something that has existed on cruise ships for a long time, but Disney sort of revolutionized it, so to speak, because your serving team goes with you. And so you can literally build relationships as you travel from restaurant to restaurant on the ship with your service team. So that's something that is really special on a Disney cruise line. And basically on your first night, you'll find out what your order is. It's actually on your Key to the World card. So that's how you know what your rotation is. The restaurants each have a letter that corresponds with the first letter of the name of the restaurant. So Animator's Palette will just be A, Triton's will be T, and so on. And your Key to the World card will literally be like A, T, whatever else the ones, and it'll show you the order that you go for the number of nights of your cruise. So that's how you know where you're going to show up. I think, Christy, your table number is even on your Key to the World card, right?
It is.
Yeah, so you show up at the restaurant, they'll grab your Key to the World card just so they can see your table number. They'll take you to your table. And then for the rest of the cruise, that will be the order that you go basically from restaurant to restaurant, and your service team will follow you. So that's what rotational dining is. It allows you to try all the restaurants in a certain order with the same servers. It's really amazing. And it's one of the best parts of Disney Cruise Line, honestly.
I agree. And there are people that want to be in a certain restaurant, like Chris mentioned it. Chris from Northern California mentioned it on his Thanksgiving Day cruise. They wanted to be in a certain restaurant for Thanksgiving. You can call Disney ahead of time. I think a few weeks ahead of time, they have the schedule of how your dining is going to go, and they'll say the order. So there's 3 restaurants, they'll choose. Sometimes it's, ABC, or sometimes it's ABCC, or whatever. They fluctuate, they move the restaurants around, or the order of the restaurants around if you have a longer than a 3-day cruise. So you can actually find out what the different rotational options are. So if you want to be in a certain restaurant on a certain day, some people for the optional dress up night want to be in the fancy restaurant, the Royal Court or Triton's or Lumiere's. And so they'll make it so that they can request that restaurant for that particular night. There are people that make those requests, and there's a bunch of people that don't. And I just want to tell you, if you're a first-time cruiser, don't get caught up, as Steve would say, in the weeds with all of this different stuff that you can do. Just let them throw you a rotation and enjoy it and like it. Because I promise they are all great and they all have their pros for different reasons. So there's going to be good at every restaurant.
Yeah, and they really try to take care of you on the dining assignments. They try to match your preferences, but also Disney does cute things like when Seth and I were on our honeymoon cruise, they wanted to set us with other people who were couples or recently married. And so you end up meeting people who are sort of like you. And then on our last cruise where we took our mother-in-law, they set us with other families that were sort of mixed age so that we could get to know people similar to us. So there's a lot of benefit to letting Disney do their magic and not stressing over the details, though some people know what they like and they will stress over the details, and we get that. But if you're sort of you know what, I'm going to trust Disney, you might end up with building lifelong relationships and friendships and having servers that are just the best servers you've ever had. And it's all just in the magic of letting Disney do it for you.
And that's a good tip or a good point there. I didn't even add that into what we were going to talk about today, is who you end up sitting with. And you guys have kind of hit on that already, as far as, they try and do their best to pair you up with people that have some kind of similarity to you. You can also get a hold of them ahead of time and ask to sit by yourself so that you are not paired up with people. So that is a possibility. That comes from our good friends, the Towlers over in England. John sent that. But as he and I kind of texted back and forth, it's a good thing that we didn't do that, because we ended up sitting together with their family and we've become good friends since. So just like you said, Chris, you never know what you're going to find. And for us on that cruise to Norway, it's provided us with some great friends that we now have over in England. So, well, let's talk about the dining itself. How long does it take, Christy, for your dining experience?
I feel like my dining experience might be different than other people's.
I was going to say, is it Christy's dining experience or the average dining experience?
What's the average dining experience? How long does, when you talk about going and having your main dining experience, how long is that kind of allotted for people?
I want to say people should know about an hour and a half, but we try to rush our meals, so other people should chime in. I think it's an hour to hour and 45 minutes. A regular meal, even to try to get your dessert, I would say you should budget. You should budget about an hour and 45 minutes.
The thing is, Disney plans really cool things that are happening during the dinners, and they plan them twice. So you're not going to miss something just because your dinner was 2 hours long. If Rapunzel was showing that night, you would simply go to the Rapunzel that was happening not during your dining rotation. And that's sort of how they plan around the time. So they really do like budget in such a way that you would be able to spend a good 2 hours at your meal without having to worry about missing anything.
We get to the main dining room. We found our way to, in this case, we're going to go to Lumiere's, which is on board the Magic. It's their French-themed restaurant. We show up. We walk in that door. How does it kind of work from there, Chris?
Well, so you'll give your key. If it's the very first night, they'll ask to see your key to the world card. And on the card, it'll have your table number, and they'll walk you to your table. Now, the cool thing is, once you've been in your restaurant, you know how to get to your table. So on these longer cruises where you're going to go to Lumiere's, let's say twice or even 3 times, once they take you to your table once, you know exactly where your table is. So that's exciting. You can almost just sort of walk in and be like, hey, I know where I'm going. But usually they like to escort you to your table. You get there, and that's when you'll meet your server team for the very first time. And your server team is going to ask you a lot of intro questions. If you have dietary restrictions, they'll check on that. But also, they'll get your drink orders and things like that. And then they like to sort of remember those things from night to night. So if you order a Diet Coke on the first night, there's a pretty good chance that when you show up on the second night, there's going to be a Diet Coke already sitting at your seat when you get there. And that's just their way of being like, I remember you and I care about you. And you might even have to say to your server, hey, I'm going to get a Diet Coke tonight, but I don't want that every night. Or else you might show up at your table and it'll be there pretty much every night. So something to think about, but they like to know who you are and get to know you.
Yeah, it's like my favorite feature of a Disney cruise, actually.
So there's 2 people that meet you at the table. One's going to be your main server, and then the second person is going to do like all the peripheral stuff. He or she is going to bring you your drinks. They're going to bring you some of the other stuff too. I can't remember. I think
like bread. Yeah, like they just do all that stuff, and they're usually the ones who do the magic tricks.
Yes, they're the assistant server. They typically have a little bit more time. They are usually the ones that have to like run at the whim of the main server that you're going to have. Sometimes they'll have more time at the end to do magic tricks, and you are right. They are the ones that will like entertain the kids and or adults.
So I've got a question. I've got a toddler, Christy. Do they have high chairs? I've never seen them. Do they?
They do have high chairs.
So my younger child can come to dinner with me.
Yes. I mean, you don't have a toddler, but if somebody has a toddler, their younger child can come to dinner with them. And Disney will actually, so some cruise lines will order baby food or things like that for your kid. Disney will not do that, but they will puree anything you ask for or give you the largest amounts of food. So when Blake was an infant, we cruised and he would have garbanzo beans and we'd say, can we just have a tiny bit of garbanzo beans? I mean, there was enough for 7 weeks that they gave us. So we'd say, okay, can we have a quarter of that size of peas the next day? So, and your head server is the one that will work that out as well. So they'll puree it or they'll give them to you really steamed, however you request it.
So Chris, I'm the type of person that likes to know everything. And so I really want to know what's on the menu that night. How do I do that?
I feel like one thing that is really cool about the Navigator app, I know that we sort of like shade it sometimes because we love those paper navigators, but the Navigator app does have digital menus in it. So you can peruse what options are available for you by going into the Navigator app and clicking on sort of like tonight's menu or something like that. I don't know if you can review menus for your entire cruise because the Navigator app has some like little things where it sort of locks you out of like, it's like, here are the events for today and here are today's menus and things like that. But you can review menus ahead of time if you're sort of like, I want to know what we're going to have and I'm going to sort of guess what I want ahead of time. Now, one fun thing we haven't talked about is that Disney Cruise Line doesn't mind it if you order 2 entrees because both of them sound delicious. So if you see a menu item and you're torn, your server might even be like, you look torn, we're going to bring you both.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we're
even
also
if you
bring
pick one, they might bring it for you anyway.
Yeah, just to surprise you. And so like that's the thing. Or like one thing Disney Cruise Line likes to do is if you order nothing for dessert, they bring you a plate with chocolate sauce that writes the word nothing on it.
I've never heard of that.
Just to be like, hey, we're going to go above and beyond and make you laugh, or like we're going to make you surprised. So it's just like the fun little things that they like to do. And I think the menu is one of them. They like to bring you things. And also, so sometimes I can't eat as much as I would want to eat. And that causes them to think that I didn't enjoy my meal. So I've literally gotten into like full on debates with my server being like, I enjoyed the meal very much. I don't want you to bring me anything else, because the server's like, you didn't eat very much. We're going to bring you a whole nother meal. And I'm like, no, it was very good. I'm just full. So they would like to make sure that you leave full and happy and very satisfied.
Mm-hmm. And to that end, let's talk about the menu really quick. For your cruise, what is included? You get, like Chris said, you can order as much as you want. But really what that means is you can order as much as you want. So when they have on your menu will be an appetizer section that'll have salads and soups and things like that, and different just appetizers, like my fried brie that I love so much is in that section. Then they will have entrees. They have an anytime or an everyday menu. So there's like 4 things that you can find at the bottom of your menu every single day. The dessert is typically a separate menu. So they'll give you that at the end of your meal to then pick through and decide what you're going to have. But if you want 4 appetizers, you can have 4 appetizers.
And it's pretty consistent, the like types of things. Like almost every menu has some type of like charcuterie appetizer where it's like, you know, sliced ham from Spain and like manchego cheese to give you sort of like a Spanish charcuterie option. Or every menu has a soup of the day and a specific like seasonal salad or themed salad. So like there are some consistencies menu to menu. Every menu has a chicken dish, a steak dish, a fish dish, things like that. And so if you have certain like genres of food that you enjoy, that will be on every menu. And then every menu also has something to sort of liven it up and throw something out of left field, like lamb shanks or lobster or, I don't know, tofu that's been grilled. There's just like lots of stuff on the menus that are sort of like designed for people who are a bit more adventurous. One thing we haven't mentioned too is each restaurant, every menu has a bread service that's unique to that menu. So sometimes the bread service is like pretzel rolls, and sometimes the bread service is like, you know, seeded, sprouted whole grain something. And so they bring that at also every menu. And I'm assuming they also have gluten-free rolls, but I bet you just have to eat the same gluten-free roll every meal.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. I do get rolls for every dinner, and they're great. They have them right at the beginning, just like everybody else gets, but I never get to eat that dipping sauce. So I have a feeling that some of the ingredients are coming from places that Disney does not have control over, so they don't know what the ingredients are. So I am always excluded from the dipping sauce that goes with the bread.
That's a bummer. Can you put butter on it?
Oh, yes. And they bring
and I do.
And I do. That butter is good. It's like real fresh with that little bit of salt in it. It's like good butter. So yeah, I love it.
Well, all some good points there. We're not going to get too deep in the weeds in the different restaurants, but I'll just go over them really quickly. Each one of the ships has 3 main restaurants on it. They're basically kind of the same. They just have different names. But the Magic, the Wonder, the Dream, and the Fantasy all have a French-American restaurant. On the Magic, it's Lumiere's. On the Wonder, it's Triton's. And on the Dream and the Fantasy, it's Royal Court. Then all 4 ships include Animator's Palette, and I'm just going to read what Disney says it is. They say their food is a savory fusion of Pacific Island foods, Asian cooking, and fresh California fare paints, a delicious culinary pictured nightly. Then the Magic has Rapunzel's, which has an awesome show that you can listen to. Tiana's is kind of that New Orleans themed restaurant on board the Wonder, and then the Dream and the Fantasy have Enchanted Garden, which is, they claim that is continental inspired food. So those are your different restaurants. They all have different pluses and minuses, and we can probably need to do a whole separate show on that one just to talk about each one of those. But let's kind of move on. I think that was a good point too that you made, Chris, or Chrissy, I can't remember now. I'm like totally losing my mind, that there is some basic stuff that you can order on the menus each night if you don't want to try what is the main theming of that restaurant. So let's move on to the kids menus, because we have kids with us, or a lot of us have kids with us. And Christy, why don't you talk about the kids food?
So there is a kids menu every single night. Kids can order off of the kids menu or the adults menu. So people just need to keep that in mind. You can also order different things. So like my son will get a bowl of cucumbers and tomatoes every day to start his dinner. And so he'll order it the first day, and they're always like, just cucumbers and tomatoes and no dressing. And so you have to repeat that 4 times. And then they'll bring it for you. And so then the rest of the cruise, he will start his meal with cucumbers and tomatoes. And I think they understand that children are hungry when they arrive, and they're happier when they're eating instead of waiting. So the other thing about kids' meals is they are brought out usually first. So while you might have appetizers and other things happening, the kids are just getting their entree. They have very cute little plates that separate the food so that the food isn't together. Most of the time, your servers will cut up your child's food, which is amazing as a parent because we always have to then worry about cutting them up into bite-sized pieces, and they'll handle that for you.
Obviously, I've never ordered off the kids menu, though sometimes I do want some chicken tenders. So what else is on a kids menu that's different from the adult menu?
You can actually yourself order off of the kids menu. If you've ever ordered a Mickey bar for dessert in the dining room, which everybody should know is included, that is technically on the kids menu. So, and Mickey bars are like $6 at Walt Disney World right now, and you can get them included in your cruise fare, both in room service and in the dining room for no additional charge. So that's my fun little tip. So what's on the kids menu? There's almost always pizza. There's almost always chicken tenders and fries. I feel like sometimes there's a hamburger, although I'm not entirely sure. There is usually like a third item. And so sometimes it's steak. Sometimes it's spaghetti. There's often a spaghetti and or something like spaghetti and meatball type situation. And then a lot of times we'll just order my son grilled chicken. So they have no problem getting the grilled chicken and vegetables. They'll put it on a kid's menu or a kid's plate still, and they'll bring it out. So you can pretty much ask for whatever you want for your child.
My youngest loves broccoli. And so for the first couple cruises, we asked for broccoli, and they brought out a huge bowl of broccoli for him every night. So yeah, don't be afraid. That's a good point. Don't be afraid to ask your servers just about anything, and if they can do it, they'll try and make it happen as far as food goes. There is one point to be made. A lot of the kids' meals is made ahead of time, and I think it's put under heat lamps. I mean, I've not been back in the kitchen. I don't know that for sure, but my kids have complained at times that when it's come out, it's kind of lukewarm. I don't want to say it's cold, but it can be lukewarm and not quite as hot and as fresh as what that you might be able to get up in cabanas, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if your kids are getting older, that's the one thing that we found was our oldest kept on eating mac and cheese, and about 3 nights in, he was kind of done with it, and he finally ordered something off the adult menu, and that was a good learning experience for us, was to get him thinking about ordering something off the adult menus, and he's never looked back since. So just like you already said that, Christy, that they can do that, but just know that you can do that.
If you want something, so like my son has wanted grilled cheese before, and grilled cheese won't be on the menu. It's a little bit more difficult for them to come up with something not on the menu the day you're requesting it. So if you order it in advance, then they can have it for you the next day. So just keep that in mind, because it is a little bit more work for them, and or it's a much longer delay because they're going to a different kitchen to get it. But if you know, like, okay, child, you would like grilled cheese, we'll get it for you tomorrow. So here's what our choices are today. Then your serving team can have that figured out. And then I should just note that the cruise lines are not that good with grilled cheese. They do not understand cooking the cheese, I feel like, on either your hamburger or your child's meals. So just the grilled cheese might be a little questionable. I mean, my 6-year-old doesn't know the difference, but I would if I was eating it.
I concur.
Well, let's move on. Chris, I'm thirsty. I'm famished now. I need something to drink. What are my options in the main dining room?
So in the main dining room, you can have like any Coke products you want. That's a departure from a lot of other cruise lines, though. If you've only ever sailed Disney, you wouldn't know it. Is that soda is usually not included on a cruise, and it is for Disney. So if you want any type of Coke product, you can order that. Any sort of thing like iced tea. A lot of people complain because Disney doesn't have sweet tea. I'm not from the South. I've never had sweet tea, but I literally hear people on message boards all the time being like, how am I going to get my sweet tea? And unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that, except you might be able to put some sugar into their regular tea.
Sarah talked about it, I believe, in episode 68. And if not, we'll have her talk about it in the future because she likes sweet tea. There's something that they do for her, like give her some simple syrup and something, and she makes sweet tea. So there are options. They just don't serve sweet tea.
Well, look at that. The more you know. I think that Southern sweet tea is a thing that you probably can't get. Also, I'm a bit of a lemonade snob, and the lemonade I think they serve is just like Minute Maid. So, if you have very, very specific taste, or you're like, you know what, this is a drink that I specifically like, they might not have it. And that's just something to be aware of. At dinner, you can order cocktails. They have some on the menu, obviously for an extra fee. And you can always get house wines or house beers that they will bring to the table. I want to say you might be able to order some more like specialty wines or specialty beers. But again, anything that requires your server to like run around the ship to try to find this thing for you, that's kind of harder on them. I bet you if you let them know ahead of time, like this is the type of beer I want with dinner, they might be able to have that thing for you ready the next night and so on. But yeah, so you can have alcoholic drinks for an extra fee. Now, if you're thirsty the rest of the time, on the sort of like top deck or the deck that has cabanas, let's call it.
The pool deck.
The pool deck. There you go. Words. On the pool deck, they have a like soda machine where you can get like filtered water, ice, and sodas, and even things probably like Powerade and tea. So that is available for you 24 hours a day. I almost said 7 days a week, but it really depends on how long your cruise is. But it's available for you no matter when you want it. You could go there in the middle of the night, and people do. So one like hot tip is bring like a mug or a Tervis or something that you can like refill. Though I believe, and Christy, you would probably know this better than me, Disney does discourage you using your own cup at the soda machine. So you have to use one of their cups and then like pour it into your own cup.
That is correct.
Yeah, which
because
makes sense. Germs.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Couple other tips there. Each night they usually have a smoothie option for the kids. That's going to be an additional fee that's on the kids menu. And for some reason, my youngest kid loves root beer, and root beer is not included in the complimentary sodas. That is an additional fee to get root beer for some reason. I don't know why. My wife and I enjoy having some wine for dinner, and so what we usually do is we buy into one of the wine packages. You can do that first night. There's several different options. There's a 3-day, a 4-day, a 7-day. You'll have to take a look at it. There's two different. There's a higher end and then there's a lower end wine package. So if you want to reduce your costs a little bit as far as wine goes, you can do that. You can also bring, and we'll talk about this here in just a second, you can bring wine and beer on board. If you do bring your own bottle of wine to dinner, they are going to charge you a corking fee, but it'll be a little bit cheaper than buying the bottle of wine at dinner that they are going to charge you, I think.
You can pay a corking fee, but if you actually open your wine in your stateroom and just bring yourself a glass of wine, then there's no fee to drink that in the dining room.
Well, that's a good way of getting around it, isn't it? So if you bring the whole bottle down there, they're going to charge you a corking fee, but if you just want to bring a glass with you to dinner, you can do that.
One thing on that, when I bring my own drinks, because I do, and if we're cruising concierge, they do have a happy hour, and I will often take a drink with me to dinner. But I do still tip my assistant waiter a little extra because drinks is that person's domain. Some of how they make their money is through these tips. And so I'll just tip a little extra, but know that I'm not buying those specialty beverages from them.
Well, that's kind of an overview of main dining. Let's go into just a real quick round of pros and cons between main and second dining as far as what we think the good and bad points of each are. Christy, why don't you start with the main?
For me, you get through that first meal quicker. So if you're hungry, if you're used to eating at 5:30 or 6, and remember that you sit down at 5:45, but they have to take your order and they have to bring you stuff. So you're not going to be eating until like 6:15 to 6:30. And so if that is the time you're used to eating, then that's helpful to keep your kids on a schedule. And as I've stated, that's the time I'm used to eating. So I like to have that dining time because I am hungry at that time of day. There are a lot more younger kids in main dining at that time, mostly because the younger kids go to sleep. It is sometimes difficult. I would say a con is it's sometimes difficult after a port day to even get there. Sometimes after Castaway Key Days, for example, we have to scramble to shower and get ready to be to dinner at 5:45 because you could be on the island until 4 o'clock. So, that could be a little bit of a tight time crunch. It's usually full and it's usually a little bit busier.
Hey, Chris, how about you with second dining? What are some of the pros and cons for second dining?
Well, not to paint myself as completely altruistic, but one of the reasons we take second dining is because we don't have kids and we know that it matters to people who aren't us. So it's really just a way of being nice to people. I think there are some of those pros are things that we would maybe want to in that first dining. That being said, you're on vacation, eating late is not that bad. I have a personal thing, which is I don't like feeling really full while sitting in a theater to watch a show. So the nice thing about second dining is that you get to watch the nightly entertainment before dinner.
And see, I would think that's a con.
Yeah, see, I just literally
Different
hate
strokes.
the feeling of being like, oh, I'm so full. And now I'm sitting down. My favorite thing to do if I'm really full is to like walk the decks and sort of walk off some of that fullness. But again, different folks. I think one difficult thing about late dining that we just should acknowledge is that you are sort of sandwiched between events, because usually there is, on some nights they have like fireworks after the late dining and a show right before. So it's like you go to the show and then you go to dinner, and then after dinner you have to run up to the top deck, and you might not be able to get as good of a viewing spot because first dining was already up there. So there's things like that on fireworks nights. But again, fireworks usually happen on Pirates Night, and Pirates Night I'm at Palo anyway. So, I feel like late dining is for us. We like it. It fits better with our lives, but I can see the pros and cons to both.
One thing to note for second dining too is that the kids clubs will come and pick up your kids partially through the meal, and take them to the kids club. So if you have kids that are kids club ages that want to immediately get back to the kids club, then the parents can actually have a nice leisurely meal without their children.
And that is for the Oceaneers Club and the Oceaneers Lab. Obviously, the older kids can get to themselves to the clubs on their own. And that's one con that we kind of came up with the main dining on the last cruise, or 2 cruises ago that we were on. Our oldest son was in the Edge, and most of his friends that he made were in the second dining. So he'd go to first dining with us because that's what we had. That would get over. He'd go up to the Edge, and there'd be nobody there because they were up in the second dining. So there's a lot of angles to this, depending upon what, works for your family. But that was kind of a con for us. It was kind of a weird kind of con that we came upon. And then also for us coming from the West Coast, 6 o'clock, that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our time, if you're sailing, or even earlier with a time change, if you're sailing out of Port Canaveral. So we really enjoyed that second seating as well. And one other thing that I kind of noticed, it seems like it's more relaxed, the second seating, because they don't have to turn the dining room over to hit that second service. And a lot of times it seemed like the servers were a little bit more relaxed on that second seating that we've had, just our experiences, I guess. Well, anything else about main dining before we turn to cabanas, guys?
Nope.
Not here.
Okay. Chris, people talk about cabanas all the time. What is cabanas?
So every cruise ship, no matter the line, well, actually, that's not true. Some of these luxury lines don't have it, but most cruise ships have something they call a Lido deck, which is basically a place where you go and have buffet food. And on Disney Cruise Line, that restaurant is called Cabanas. It's on the pool deck, so near the top of the ship. It's always aft, and basically any type of food you can think of, at least at some point, is usually served there. So they try to mix it up. They you might walk in there and be like, I didn't expect to see pad thai, and they will have it. And so it just sort of depends. The chefs sort of like to mix it up. You can go there for all meals. So you can go there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But dinner in Cabanas is sort of like a seated affair. And I don't know exactly why people would go to dinners up there, except that it's sort of, you can go whenever you want. So that's nice that, if you missed your main dining, or if you had kids, you could have dinner up there. But lunch and breakfast are the 2 buffet style meals that are served up there. And pro tip, there are chefs sort of behind where all the food is displayed. And if you have specific requests, you can flag one of them down and ask. So if you want a fresher omelet, or you want eggs that are prepared, in a certain way, and they don't have them out there, they'll go ahead and do that for you. One thing that I have is I like breakfast sausage only if it is cooked way, way, way too long. And so I will ask them if they can make the breakfast sausage really well done. And they always do. So there's that. Also, unlike a lot of other cruise lines, Disney really knows how to have some crab legs and some very expensive options there. And so it's usually a pretty good value, and people will choose to go to Cabanas most every day, though, and Christy can hit on this, there are other options for both breakfast and lunch if you're not feeling Cabanas.
Yeah, that's a good point. So for breakfast and lunch, you can go. There will be a main dining room open. It will alter, and there's not going to be rotational dining. It's just going to be a choice that will be open for those meals, so you can have a sit-down meal if you don't want to do Cabanas. There's also quick service, which we'll discuss in a minute.
I've got a couple of answers for you, Chris, as to why you would go to Cabanas for dinner. We ended up going in Norway. The first time we ever went to dinner in Cabana was in Norway because we got back too late from one of our shore excursions to make our main dining. And so we went up there. Like you said, you can go up there whenever you want. Look in the Navigator once again. It does have a limited time for seatings up there for dinner, but it doesn't have that hard, you need to be here, by 6 or so to to make your main dining. And the things that we really enjoyed about it was the fact that there wasn't a lot of people up there, and the servers really spent time. We ended up talking kind of 30, 35 minutes with our server one night, kind of learning all about where he was from, his background, his family. And that was a lot of fun because when you're in the main dining rooms, your server and your assistant server, they have several tables that they're working. So you're going to develop a relationship with them, but they've got a lot of work that they've got to do. So you do develop a good relationship with them. We've had some amazing servers, but that experience of just hanging out with our server up in Cabanas was really cool. The second thing I will say, too, for our kids, our oldest being the macaroni cheese guy and our youngest being a steak guy, they ordered their food. That stuff is made fresh right up there, and it came out piping hot, whereas when they were younger, as we kind of talked about with the kids' meals, that stuff is made ahead of time, put under a heat lamp. And so I remember our youngest going, wow, this is the best steak I've ever had. We really enjoyed our time up at Cabanas, and we would definitely go back there again. I think the one thing that, and I'm not sure on, I think it's not open the last night for dinner. Is that right, Christy? Do you know?
It is not open the last night or the first night for dinner.
So if you're on a 3-day cruise, you got one night to get there if you want to go. But it worked well for us. You know, if you find yourself on a port excursion where you've got that early seating and you need a place to go and eat, it really worked well for us. I would not hesitate to recommend somebody to go up there and eat. We really enjoyed it. And the one thing too is one time we went up there and ate, and it was a buffet for dinner. It was like a German buffet. They had a whole bunch of German food up there. So I think it's generally a sit down where you order off a menu, but we have been up there when it's been a buffet in the evening as well.
Wow.
I guess any tips about Cabanas, things that you guys have learned along the way as far as going up there to help people kind of navigate it?
You don't have to wait in line.
Yes.
You can just sort of walk up to any food item that you want and grab it. I think sometimes there gets to be congestion around the entrance of Cabanas because people think they have to wait in line. But if you had to wait in line, you would basically be like just walking past tons of food items you weren't actually going to get just to get to the ones you wanted. So it's better if you just sort of, sometimes lines might form behind specific food items, like, the chicken tenders are particularly popular that day or something. But for the most part, you just sort of bounce around and grab what you want. Also, for fans of carrot cake, they serve carrot cake in Cabanas on the first day. Just throwing it out there.
And the dessert is actually in the back. So something to keep in mind, there's a carving station typically back there. There's sushi back there most days, if not every day. And so don't forget, so there's sort of a divider and a wall, and you kind of think you're done, but there's different food in the back.
Food does kind of repeat, like you said, like especially in the morning, they'll have scrambled eggs and they'll have a bunch of different food items. And you go a little bit further along, there'll be another section that'll have scrambled eggs and bacon again. And so it does kind of repeat. But to your point, Christy and Chris, is take that time, maybe make one lap around and see what's offered before you dive in and get something, because you might find something a little bit further back that you might really enjoy. And then drinks, again, kind of the same thing. They have soda, coffee, juice, milk, and they do have alcohol back there. At the Clam Bar, if you'd like to maybe get a mojito or a Bloody Mary in the morning or something else in the afternoon or the evening. Well, before we lose Christy, let's turn to room service. You guys have used room service quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit about how room service works?
Room service is magical on a cruise because there's no charge. There's no additional charge.
It's included in your fare.
So almost everything is included. There will be a description that says additional money if there's, in fact, an additional charge to use it. You can actually do a Google search for the room service menu so you can see it, but they have a really nice cheese plate. If you are celiac, you'll just ask for them to not put any crackers on. You can ask for gluten-free crackers, but that's not always an option. I understand that you can get gluten-free French fries, so people have reported that if that is something you need. But there's a card in a book in your desk. It's like this big book. I don't even know what's in that book. I think it's like advertisements for stores and random other things. But then also in that big book is basically a card. Yeah, a card stock menu that tells you what your options are.
The room service food, it's hit or miss, but some things on there are pretty good. It's available 24 hours, but I don't know if everything on the menu is available 24 hours. For example, you can't order for breakfast. You can't have them deliver a hot omelet to your room. What you can have for breakfast is essentially only a continental style breakfast. So teas, coffees, orange juice, and then things like pastries and fruit. And a lot of people do that because it's still nice to wake up, especially if you're in a veranda room, and just like have the coffee there and go out on your veranda and eat a croissant and watch the sea go by. And some people like to do that, especially if you're not selling in concierge, then you're not near that lounge where you can just go and grab your coffee. So it's nice to have them bring you a carafe of coffee and stuff like that. So there's a lot of reasons to do the room service in the morning, but you don't get a hot meal.
And the room service breakfast menu is separate. It's like one of those hangar door menus.
Yep.
There is no charge, but you should tip them. So we usually go by $1 to $2 an item. So sometimes it'll depend. And like I said earlier, you can get Mickey bars sent to your room from room service for no additional charge. Literally my favorite thing to get through room service.
That sounds magical. You've also taught me, Christy, to change my language and say no additional charge or included. Because I think back in the day I would be like, it's free. And then Christy would be like, no, you paid for this, Chris.
You pay for it whether you use it or not.
Yeah.
So it is included.
So take advantage of it.
Drinks, if you were to get a soda delivered to your room or in front of the theater, just something to note, there is a charge for that. Or in a bar. So you have to pay for soda in the bars and in front of the theater. The places that you can get soda included during your cruise is in the restaurants and on the pool deck.
One thing about room service that you should note is that it is very much going to be more simpler foods. Mm-hmm. I think it's like they have buffalo wings, they have grilled cheese, they have chicken tenders, French fries, things like that. They might even have an open-faced steak sandwich that I've never gotten, and various salads, but it's not going to be the fine dining or even like really fancy foods. It's more like quick bites that you can grab and eat for those random times that you're hungry or you want to stay in your stateroom and watch a movie.
Or you need to wait until your dinner at 8:30 at night.
Yeah, I always say, especially when you have a late night, especially when you have dinner in the middle of the night, as Christy would say. I always say that, it's nice to go up and get a snack or have a snack delivered to your room around 5, because it's true, if you had lunch at noon, waiting 8 hours to eat again is probably a bit long. So you can often find me up grabbing a slice of pizza on the pool deck or ordering some buffalo wings to the room.
Well, Christy is going to leave us. She's got pressing things to do around the office. So we're going to finish up, Chris. Let's turn to those snacks that you talked about. Now, the pool deck area has several different options. We don't need to go through each and every one of them specifically, but what has been your experience as far as some of the pool deck food that they have up on board the ships?
Yeah, so they have like a little section that has like cold cut sandwiches, and they name it different things on each ship, which I guess it's just to like make a special theming, but there's always a part that has cold cut sandwiches or salads, fresh fruit, things like that. Then there's another section that will always have like pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers. And then you're more of an expert in this than I, because I've never actually had the shawarma, but they also on the older ships have like some specialty like Greek foods or different types of foods. Is that right?
It's actually only on the Magic. They have shawarma on the Magic. So shawarma is just either grilled lamb or chicken, and then you usually put it in a pita. Think of it like a gyro, basically, if you're familiar with gyros. But yeah, it's in the Magic. But like to Chris's point, they have all those different options that are available during the day. So if you don't want to go to Cabanas, you don't want to go, you're out there having fun by the pool, or you're up in the adult area enjoying your time there, and you just want a quick snack and don't really want to go to Cabanas or go to a sit-down restaurant, it's a great way to get some quick service food, take it back to your seat, and then enjoy it. I would say our favorite thing is the pizza. Our youngest, Alex, and I both love the pizza. Now, this is not award-winning pizza whatsoever, but, when you're out to sea, that a slice of pepperoni pizza and maybe a salad together for a quick snack, that's just kind of our go-to thing. We enjoy it.
Yeah, totally. It's not like the best pizza you've ever had, but it's pizza, and it's included.
Right. It's included. And Christy wanted to make sure to note that these do close down about 6 each day. So you want, once again, look in the Navigator to find out. They usually leave 1 or 2 of them open. I know on the older ships, the classic ships, the pizza place is open well into the evening, so you can go back there and grab a slice of pizza. And then I think they close down maybe the burgers and some of the other things up there, but they don't all stay open all evening. They do tend to close down about 6. or so.
And they also have daily specials. We forgot to mention that. So like, there'll be a special hamburger or a special type of hot dog or something like that from day to day. And they just like throw that out there, like put a little sign saying today's special. And it'll be something unique that wasn't on the menu the day before, but usually just a different combination of the ingredients they already have there.
So a couple other places that we haven't really talked about, these are all for an additional cost, is Vanellope's Sweet and Treats. That's on the Disney Dream, which is
and Sweet on You is the like fantasy version of that. They're the same thing though.
And we haven't eaten there. It's just basically an ice cream shop, right?
Yeah, we've eaten there. It's ice cream. I think they have like macarons and pieces of like cake or pastries. And then they also have like fun themed candies and things like that.
On the rest of the ships, they usually have an ice cream maker, one of the soft serve, which you can eat as much of that as you want, and our youngest does that every time. I think he eats about 6 to 8 ice cream cones a day, which is crazy. So,
oh my gosh.
I know. I think that is all the food service that we have to touch on. There's, I guess, one more place that we enjoy going to, which is the Cove Cafe, which offers coffee, specialty coffees. That's where you're going to get your latte, your mocha, or your iced coffees, and it is much better than the main included coffee that you're going to find on the pool deck or back in cabanas. But that does come at an additional cost. Have you guys spent any time there at the Cove Cafe?
Yeah, the Cove Cafe is pretty great. It's like, I think it's actually renovated on all 4 ships now. So if you're looking for like the newest, nicest furniture and design, it's just very quiet and comfy chairs, and I love it there. Also, pro tip, they have pastries, and at night they have, and this is actually, I don't know if people know this, but there's like leftover cheese and charcuterie type things from brunch at Palo that they take over to the Cove Cafe, and most nights you can stop in there and for free get to try those things that they just sort of have in a refrigerated case inside the Cove Cafe. You have to ask for them, and you might feel like you're going to be asked to pay for them, but you're not going to be. They'll just give it to you. So you'll say like, hey, can I get some of that Parmesan cheese and prosciutto? They'll put it on a little plate and hand it to you, and there's no charge for that. And during the day, there's pastries and things there. Again, they'll give them to you at no additional charge. So if you're looking for pastries or charcuterie around dinner time, the Cove Cafe is a place to go.
And I think, if memory serves me, I know the Flocks up in Seattle, Brian, one of his favorite things is sticky buns up at Palo Brunch, and I think that he's actually found those there at the Cove Cafe. So you never know what you're going to find there. If you're looking to try something different, maybe pop in there and see what they've got available each day.
Yeah.
So the last thing I guess we can cover, and we've touched on most of this too, is just drinks on board. Well, before we do that, one other thing that we have touched on a little bit, a lot of the times the bars will have little different appetizers and snacks. I know down in O'Gill's, which is the sports bar on the Magic, they have, a lot of times they'll have like chips and salsa, or maybe they'll have some buffalo wings. Have you had any experience with any of those types of food, Chris?
Yeah, on the older ships and the newer ships, in the late evening, they do like late night buffet type snacks and foods down there. And it's fine. It's good. Normal buffet type things.
Yeah, I mean, those are just kind of think about like bar food, like simple bar food. That's basically where you're going to get something to snack on while you're enjoying that adult beverage of sort. And just to kind of finish up, let's talk about drinks on board. We've talked a lot about it. We talked about the drink stations, which you're going to find where they offer. That's your included drinks that is on the pool deck and in cabanas. Are you a beer drinker, Chris?
Not really. I'd prefer a cider over a beer.
Okay. Well, there is a deal where you can buy a mug of beer.
Right.
Well, you actually get the mug itself. They give you a card. So, and it's kind of a cool thing. I do like my beers. So I think you get about 20 ounces versus the 16 ounces so you get about 4 ounces more for just a fraction of a price higher. And if you want, you can take that mug home with you, or you could just hold onto the card and take that card onto your next cruise and reuse it on the next cruise, which is what I do because I like my beer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, what's in your wallet? I've got my Disney Cruise Line beer mug card. That's kind of wacky, I think.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, and then we talked about wine packages. You can do that ahead of time. You can buy those ahead of time. Wine for your room. You can buy beer for your room as well. I think it's a little pricey personally. You're probably better off if you're really big into that, just bringing your 2 bottles of wine or your 6-pack on board at the embarkation on your embarkation day, and then each person can bring 2 bottles of wine or a 6-pack of beer on board.
Additionally, from what you already brought on at previous ports. So
Right.
you could pretty easily drink without drinking on Disney's dime if you wanted. Though, I want to say, yeah, you can pre-order things like bottled water as well. So, like, if you're uncomfortable drinking, like, the ship water, which, I don't know, it does have an interesting taste to me, but I can be like a water snob. You can have them deliver basically a case of water to your room for like an astronomical fee. I think it's like $40 or $50 for 24 bottles. But that's something you could do if that was a concern of yours, on top of having beer or wine delivered to your stateroom.
So this is just from my brother and his husband's perspective, looking at the drink prices on board. Drinks can add up over, alcoholic drinks can add up over the course of a cruise, but just from their perspective, living in the DC area, they found that the prices are actually a lot cheaper than what they see when they go out to eat and out around the DC area in the evenings. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, same in LA. Like, a lot of people will balk at the price of the drink on a Disney cruise line, and I'm like, that's $7 cheaper than a drink in my neighborhood. So I think it really is perspective. I also think it's a place where like big city folk win, because Disney's like, we can't charge these astronomical prices because people don't pay that in their hometown. But if you come from a very large city and you're used to paying those astronomical prices, it feels like you're getting a deal, even if you're not really.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of finishes up what we're going to talk about for our DCL 101 series, talking about dining. But I think, Christy, you've got a little fun round of lightning for us.
I do. You guys ready?
Yes.
Bring it
Okay.
on.
Your favorite appetizer on a DCL ship. Go.
Okay, mine is the brie.
And
Steve?
believe it or not, time.
Wait, no. But is it not going to be escargot?
Well, there's actually 2 that I really enjoy. Escargot.
Oh my God.
Yeah, escargot at Triton's or Lumiere's or Royal Palace. But I also really love at Rapunzel's Royal Table, they have this pasta. It's kind of like a truffle pasta of some sort, which is really good. Yeah, so I like that as well. But I'm going to go with the escargot.
And mine is the fried brie as well.
Yeah, but
Chris and I
yours
are
is the
kindred
gluten-free
spirits.
variety.
Well, yes, the kind that doesn't make me ill.
Well, right. Well, what do they put on it? Just like rice flour or something?
Yeah. I mean,
Now I'm like,
last...
should I order it gluten-free? Because I bet you it comes out fresher.
Well, okay, it's hit or miss.
All right.
9 times out of 10, it's amazing. And it is super fresh, and like the cheese is beautiful and melted and amazing. And then sometimes it's not.
I love that fried brie.
I tell them they have to figure out how to serve it for me. All right, favorite entree. I think you know where this is going, but favorite entree on a DCL ship.
We can only pick main dining room?
Yes, included food only.
Okay. So my favorite is actually going to be a wild card for everybody, but I like to order the steak that is always on the menu the way I like it.
And I'm going to go with the Chateaubriand, which is served at Lumiere's, Triton's, or once again, Royal Palace.
And you guys know what mine is, right?
Chicken
Schnitzel.
I should be so much more original, but oh my God, I love the chicken schnitzel. I can't say it, but I love it.
Have either of you ever had the lobster?
My mom eats it. I don't eat food from the sea, so I do not eat it, but she likes it.
Where do they have the lobster? I'm not sure if I've seen
I
like,
think it has to be a longer cruise, and they probably don't have it in the Mediterranean.
yeah, I've never seen lobster before. I've seen like why am I totally drawing a blank on it? Not shrimp, but scallops, but then also what's like a bigger prawns. So
right.
I've seen prawns before, but I've never seen lobster. So someday.
Yeah, so they must not serve it in Europe then. It's on the optional dress-up night.
Ah, okay.
Like longer cruises in the Caribbean have it for sure.
Yeah. And they'll bring you several of them, and they'll cut them out of the tail for you.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're going to have to go on a longer Caribbean cruise one of these days.
Sounds like it.
Okay, what's your next one?
Okay. Favorite dessert on a Disney cruise?
Okay, mine, I wish I could remember the name, but it's like a baked apple thing that they have at Triton's or Royal Palace or whatever that restaurant is on the ship. I love it so much that I will ask for it to be brought from other dining rooms to the dining room that I'm in because it's that good.
It smells good. I can't eat that, but it smells amazing.
So my actual favorite one is in Palo, but since that's off the table,
that does not count.
I know. I'm gonna
it's
be
not
pretty,
included.
I know. I'm gonna be pretty generic, and I am going to go, and I'm the creme brulee. I love the creme brulee.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Creme brulee is so good.
You like your French things.
I do.
So, really, though, you like that Royal Court Triton's meal is your absolute favorite.
It is. And I'm hoping that you're going to ask what your favorite restaurant is.
Well, yep, you got that coming, but I get to answer first.
Okay.
All right, so just like you guys had 2 for some things, I want 2 for my dessert. I love me a Mickey bar, but when they have that walnut cake, which is served on everybody's menu but is gluten-free, it is my favorite, and then they will bring me that numerous nights in a row once they actually have it somewhere on the ship. It's so good. It's like
walnut
chocolate with like a walnut bottom. Yum. And then, a Mickey bar, because Mickey bars are so fun. All right. The final question of lightning round is your favorite restaurant on a Disney cruise ship.
My favorite so far is Rapunzel's Royal Table, or whatever it's called, Rapunzel's Celebration of Life, or Birthday Day.
Life Day.
Is that restaurant, but I haven't been on the Wonder yet, and I am hoping to try Tiana's. I haven't been on it since Tiana was a thing, and I think that could be my favorite maybe one day.
It is my favorite. I think it could be your favorite too. Beignets and the music. Oh my God, the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love a good themed restaurant.
I like really good music. It's just really good music. And the theme, you're right. Everything is great about it. Steve?
So I love Rapunzel's Royal Table. I love Tiana's. I love the music. I love the theming around both of those 2 restaurants. But I'm going to go old school. I'm going Animator's Palates, but it's got to be on the classic ships, because I think that show that they have with the surprise finale, which I know has been brought out before, but I won't bring it out tonight just in case we're talking to newbies that are going, or new people that are going on board the Disney Cruise Line ship, to keep that surprise for them. But I just think that experience of looking at the animation as it changes over time really just brings me into what I love about Disney, the animation, the stories, and everything else. And as much as I love the music at Tiana's, and I want to say Tiana's, and I really am not excited about the menu at Animator's Palette, that show at Animator's Palette makes... it's one of the things that we love going back to every time we go on the classic ships.
That's cute. Unexpected. And I'm really shocked that you didn't say Royal Court, since every single thing you love is from there.
I know.
But I suppose you can just take that food into any old restaurant and you're fine.
Yeah. And nobody said, Pete's Boiler Bites on the Wonder, or Pinocchio's Pizza on the Magic. So
I know. Maybe if they had better
weird.
ranch.
Yeah. Well, we just stepped on Amber's toes because I know she's a French fry fan up there. So.
I mean, who doesn't want to plate of French fries? Let's be honest. But...
And we're not making fun of you, Amber, whatsoever, man. We totally appreciate it. Exactly. So, is that it? Is that all the questions you got?
That's it. That's the end of my lightning round.
Chris, you got any fun questions like that?
I have a lightning round question, and that would be... Oh, no, but neither of you will be able to answer this. I was going to say Paolo or Remy, but neither of you can answer. So,
no. What is your answer to Paolo or Remy?
Paolo.
All right, let's do Paolo dinner or Paolo brunch.
Ooh, that is hard, but I think Palo dinner. I know people love the brunch, and I love it too, but Palo dinner is more of an experience. Also, at the end of Palo dinner, they bring you a surprise limoncello cocktail in a shot glass. I guess that's a spoiler, because it's not they don't tell you they're going to do it. They just do it. And it's so delicious. And also the glass that they serve it in is this hand-blown, colorful glass. And sometimes, I haven't done it because I'm a moral person, but sometimes I wonder what it would be like to accidentally drop that into a bag and walk out of the restaurant with it, because it's such a pretty glass.
You should ask them if you could buy it anywhere and then see if they offer it to you.
Well, because you know what you can buy? You can buy the
knives.
Animator's Palette butter knife.
Because everybody was stealing them.
Yeah, of course they were, because they're so cute.
So cute.
See, you'd be doing us a service if you stole a bunch of those after each one of the cruises, and they'd put it up for sale.
Or arrest him and ban him from cruising ever again. I'm not sure that's a good option.
That's why I said I'm a moral person who has temptations.
And we're not in any way
advocating stealing.
Exactly. So, well, I guess we'll finish it out with our Patreon group when we put some questions out to them. Jimmy wanted to talk about Palo Brunch too, since we were kind of just touching on that. He said it wasn't until a few weeks ago on our last cruise that they did Palo Brunch. They'd done Palo Dinner 3 times before, and it was great. But man, brunch is fantastic. And he'd also like to agree with how accommodating the main dining room staff is to requests. It never hurts to ask. So, and I think that's what we've got for today's show.
I don't think I answered my preference of Palo Dinner or brunch.
Oh.
Did I?
Well, let's get it in there.
No,
then.
what is it?
Brunch. I do love that brunch. Like
It's good.
all the cheese, even though there's that whole table of sin or table that I cannot have, the beautiful
Gluten
bread
table.
But yeah, the bread and the dessert, I can have some dessert, but none of that beautiful bread. But man, that food is so good. So many yummy little appetizers. I love it.
And they're also tiny, but then when you eat 20 of them, you feel a little sick.
Yes. And they keep bringing them to you for me because
Yeah.
they have to bring them to me. So it's like, oh, so good.
It's also an ideal brunch experience because there's a buffet where you can just go and get whatever you want. But then there's a menu that you can order from as well. So it's like the best of both worlds.
And that Mickey waffle.
Yeah, because it's like a fancy Mickey waffle. It's like
It is.
the Mickey waffles you get at Cabanas, they're fine, but they're just regular. But this is like a gourmet Mickey waffle. It's
Yeah,
so
Steve,
good.
you need to try. You need to do it.
I know we're always busy during the day. Well, one of these, I guess we got to get that on one of the sea days, don't we?
Yeah, just do a long cruise.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks so much for coming back and answering everybody's questions about dining for the first time on Disney Cruise Line, or if it's your second or third time. If anybody out there has any questions, feel free to reach out to us either through our Facebook group, or you can always reach us through my email, steve@dclpodcast.com. If you have any questions about dining, we can get those answers back to you. And we just want to wish everybody to have a great first cruise, or if it's your second or third cruise, just enjoy cruising Disney Cruise Line and all the awesome food that there is to eat out there. So as we wrap it up, I'd like to say thanks for coming back and taking a listen. We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. I hope you enjoyed this discussion of all the different dining options that are available, the main dining options that are available on Disney Cruise Line. And this is part of our DCL 101 series. We've had some questions about what that series is. This is just the basics of sailing with Disney Cruise Line. We have several past episodes that you can go back and find either through iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or if you want to go to our website, dclpodcast.com. All the episodes are available there. Our first one, episode 30, dealt with booking your first DCL cruise. In episode 57, we talked about all about the kids clubs. We did an episode on that. And in episode 73, we gave you an overview of the Broadway style shows on board. Episode 97, we talked about where to stay when you're cruising out of Port Canaveral. And in episode 112, we talked about the different stateroom options that are available on the ship. So we are in the middle of revamping that website as well. It was just functional to put the episodes up on so that they could be loaded into iTunes and some of the other places. We are going to update that quite a bit. And so look for the future. It'll be easier to go to dclpodcast.com, and we'll have a link for all the 101 episodes. So if you're new to cruising with Disney Cruise Line, you can go directly to that spot and be able to download and listen to those episodes right there. In addition, we have a DCL 201 series where we talk about different individuals. The first two focus on my family. We've got a new one coming out here in just a little bit that focuses with Joe Chung from Disney Deciphered and his family's upcoming spring break cruise. So kind of it takes a look at how different families go about planning and paying for and just budgeting for their upcoming cruises. So to kind of give you a little perspective into how other people do it, so it helps you as well. So between now and our next show, if you would like to get a hold of us and come on the show and share your experiences with Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, or even Run Disney, you can reach out to me, steve@dclpodcast.com, and we'll work out a time to get you on board and talk about your family's vacation. If you would like to help support the show, you can do so either through our Patreon program over at patreon.com/DCLpodcast. All the information over there is set up so you can support our show. Also, if you have time to go over and do an iTunes review, we've had several come in lately, and we really do appreciate it. That helps us get our podcast known in the cruising and the Disney community. So appreciate each and every one of you who have taken time to write us a review lately or in the past. Well, between now and our next show, if you are heading out on your next vacation
All of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on your next adventure. Once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.